Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to 24 Chambers of Film. I'm Steven, this is Nathan, and today we're doing a movie review for the new Netflix film, Rebel Ridge. And the film follows an ex-Marine named Terry, and he's on his way to post bail for his cousin. On the way to posting bail, he gets pulled over by these two cops, corrupt cops, and they end up stealing his bail money for his cousin. And he really needs to get that bail out his cousin, or not, he's going to be in deep trouble. So basically what we have here is a standoff between the corrupt cops and our lead character, Terry. And what ensues is an action, thriller, even mystery film that goes on. And yeah, what'd you think of it?
I thought it was a very, very good movie. I thought that the trailer didn't do it justice, in my opinion.
Absolutely not.
I thought that the trailer was, and I don't know if it was misleading on purpose, but it really set it up to be like it was going to be a shoot 'em up, and it really was a very well, written movie. The one thing that I liked about it a lot is that they paid a lot of attention to detail, where if stuff that you wouldn't understand why they would happen, like they explained it throughout the movie. Not obviously, they're not looking at the camera and explaining it, but the answers to everything were in the movie. So I thought that was very, very clever. And I also thought that the way Don Johnson, freaking guy's a great heel villain in movies, 100%. Crazy that was the guy from Miami Vice, and now he's like the bad guy, right? Yeah, and the guy that plays Terry,
Aaron Pierre.
Aaron Pierre, I thought he did an excellent job. Like, he has a face, and he's a very good face actor. Like, his reactions and stuff are very good. And I was expecting Rambo, right? And this is like, I thought this was better than Rambo because everything has a purpose. He's not just out to get even because they kicked him out of town for fucking eating breakfast, you know?
Yeah.
And then everything has a purpose, and it all just seems to flow naturally, and the interactions just work the way that they set them.
No, yeah, I mean, look, to me, this movie, like you said, the trailer doesn't do it justice. If you go in watching the trailer, I think most people are going to have some type of expectation. But in my case, it blew those expectations out of the water, because to me, I was expecting something that was going to be entertaining, but maybe a little, not the most kind
of like a walking tall,
not really the most grounded or kind of like realistic or just feel like way over the top type film. That's kind of what I was expecting a little bit. Yep. And what I got was a very tactical.
That's the perfect description right there. Tactical.
Procedural. Like mystery thriller, and there is action in it, and when the action's in it, it's really good and really well done, but it's not like overtly an action movie. It's definitely an action movie, but it's not it's not even like a Walking Tall type action. I feel
it's like a crime drama. Yeah, it's a crime drama.
It's a crime thriller, crime drama for sure, with good action sequences in it, but it's not like a overall like this is like a straight up action movie. That's what the trailer's selling you. And maybe some people might be disappointed by that. I wasn't. I think you get more than what you're given in the trailer. It makes it even better.
100%.
You know? And like you said, like Don Johnson plays the heel in this movie, and we've seen him play bad guys in Django Unchained, but this is like he's like the main guy, and he's great. Actually, I really like. Besides the one character by Emory Cohen, Officer Steve Land, which is like the one of the guys that pulls him over. He has like the beard. He's like overtly a bad guy. He's like probably the most one-dimensional out of all the cops. But everyone else, the cops don't feel like, even Don Johnson, they don't feel like one note. They feel like they have like they're real people. You know what I mean? He's the only one that kind of maybe feels a little bit so like the basic bad cop, that character of Emory Cohen. By the way, he's the kid in Place Beyond the Pines in the third act, Bradley Cooper's son. He looks a lot different now. He's definitely grown up and gained some weight and stuff. He's great in the movie in that character. But yeah, no, I feel like you said, but the star of the movie is Aaron Pierre. He is phenomenal. I think it's a star-making performance for him. If you watch it, you're going to be like, wow, the people are going to be calling this guy to do action movies. If he
Oh,
has
100%.
a career, he has a career in action movies. If he decides to go that route, easily he can be that guy. I don't know if that's what he wants to do, because I think this is his first action movie that I've seen. I know he's done other stuff. The first time I saw him in anything was this film. Not this film. It's a TV show on Amazon Prime called The Underground Railroad, directed by Barry Jenkins, who did the movie Moonlight. And that was a great show, and he's in it. You know, he's playing a slave, but he's great in it. But that's not anything like this movie. You know, this is the totally different type of genres. But he really impressed me. And like you said, he's really good at face acting. He has these unique type of eyes and intense eyes. And he was just really smooth and slick with his dialogue. It never felt like he was trying too hard. It felt authentic. Like, it felt like he was that character. He fit that
100%.
character, the ex-Marine.
He didn't talk a lot, but when he talked, it wasn't like, it wasn't anything corny.
Yeah.
It was what was supposed to be said.
But also, it's not like he didn't talk. He had a lot of lines in the movie, but
no,
he wasn't
had a lot.
He wasn't doing monologues or anything like that. But yeah, anytime he talked, it definitely was, you were paying attention, and it was it felt meaningful. Like, it felt like impactful.
Let me rephrase that. Not that he didn't talk a lot. When he talked, it wasn't a bunch of nonsensical stuff. It was always stuff that just helped keep things moving.
Yes, it was all like, it was to the point, like stuff that mattered. It wasn't him trying to get into like,
which fit his character perfectly.
He was very to the point.
Yeah,
because in this movie, he's on a mission. He needs to get his cousin out of. He needs to bail him out because they're going to send him to state prison, and he has this history where if he goes there, there's people that are going to be looking to potentially kill him in the prison. So he's on a time slot.
Essentially, you know what I mean? So essentially, I mean, this movie, if you like any type of thriller, crime, action movie, I would recommend watching it. I think Steven's going to be on the same boat. I think it's probably, in my opinion, the best Netflix, like a Netflix original. And I don't know if they bought it, if they produced it, but it's the best Netflix original I've seen. It's the best one I've seen in the last probably year and a half to 2 years.
Yeah, I don't know if they just bought the rights for it to be an original, or they actually produced it. That's a good question, because there is another production company in there. I think they bought it to be on Netflix, or they helped co-produce it with that other company called like Science something that I saw in the beginning. But they were pretty involved, I think.
Yeah. So before we get into like the full review, we just want to give you guys a fair warning. There's going to be spoilers in the detailed review. So again, good movie. We both recommend you go watch it. I don't think anyone will be disappointed. The only way you're going to be disappointed is you want some like John Wick shit or something like that.
It's definitely not that. Yeah, it's definitely not John Wick.
It is not. It is not. It's not even Rambo, where you're freaking getting trucks being blown up like crazy and crazy explosions and all that. It's very. And again, I'm not a tactical expert or nothing, but from what you can see, for someone who's not in that, I would say it's a very grounded movie with what happens. And I think
here's another clarification. I think the trailer makes it seem like a guy trying to seek revenge. The guy's not trying to seek revenge. Yeah. He's trying to seek justice. He's not trying to cause a bloodbath. He's not trying to murder people. He's trying to do it in the most like legal way, even though he's not doing it legal, but in the most without murdering people. He's trying to be, he's trying to do what he has to do, basically. And sometimes
they build a stand-up character. Like there's no way you can misinterpret him for doing anything bad. And they do a very good job. So look, let's get into the detailed review. Guys, go watch it. Very, very good movie. Highly recommended. I think it's probably one of the best things Netflix has put out in the last 2 years.
Easily. Yeah.
And I honestly did not expect it to be what it was. 100% surprise. The trailer did not do it justice. So we're about to head into the more detailed review. Again, spoilers. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch it. And before we get into the detailed review, make sure to hit the like button on the video and subscribe to the channel so you can stay up to date with all our content. We really appreciate it, guys. So with that said, let's get straight into the acting of this movie.
You do not stand in my station in front of my officers and set terms.
So as we both mentioned, Aaron Pierre does an excellent job as Terry Richmond. Don Johnson does a great job as Chief Sandy Byrne. Then there's a character named Summer McBride who's played by AnnaSophia Robb, who
she's great.
I am not familiar with, but she I don't know what she's normally like, but man, she was on point with what her character is supposed to
The
be.
way I know her from is
Describe
from
to you.
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the remake. She's one of the she's the
Okay.
little brat kid. Like in the
Oh wow,
original
I had
movie,
no idea.
yeah, she plays the brat kid, from the original. If you've seen the original, there's
Yeah.
that little snotty rich
I've seen
kid
both
girl.
of them. Yes.
Yeah, so she plays the one in the remake, and
No, I had no clue.
she's been in other stuff. But yeah, this was that was my first time I ever saw her. She was ever on my radar, was Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And I'm happy to see that she's doing great stuff or coming into her own, because I felt like I think in the trailer I saw her and I was like, oh, okay. I didn't think anything really of that character was going to be too, like, I don't know, memorable.
Part of the movie.
Not necessarily integral, but memorable. And actually, by the end of the movie, I was like, wow, she's actually like a memorable character, and she actually holds her own. And her and Aaron Pierre have really good chemistry, I thought, which is like, I think on first glance, when you put them together, there's a contrast, obviously.
100%.
Like, will this work? Who knows? But when you see it on screen, it works perfectly.
They develop it they develop it very well with their backstory, which is what I liked, because they give you a reason for everything in this movie.
Why she's helping him,
yeah. It also has, as you mentioned, Emory Cohen, who was in Placement on the Pines. He was also in that movie Shot Caller with Josh Bernthal and the guy who played Jamie Lannister. I forget his name.
Yeah.
Then one of the other officers that kind of kicks everything off is David Denman. Yeah, Office. And he's from The Office. He plays Roy on The Office. So if you like The Office,
great. I actually, his character is very interesting. Actually, his character has the cool reveal in the movie that I was not expecting, and it was like, I've seen this movie almost 3 times fully now. Okay. And his character is interesting because you think of him in one way in the beginning, and then as the movie progresses, and then there's this point where you get like a reveal, and you kind of realize
with his character that he might, he kicked things
knows
off.
What's going on. He knows what's going on.
And he's the one that kicks things off. But at the same time, like, everything really starts because of a very realistic like misinterpretation, that potentially happens, right? It's not because of anything other than like an honest mistake. Essentially, Terry's riding his bike and he's got his headphones in, and he can't hear the cop flash him.
And he's flashing the lights. Yeah, so he thinks he's fleeting. He thinks he's running away.
And that's kind of what kicks it off. Fleeting, and honestly, that's 100%. That's 100% realistic. I've been pulled over by the cops where I'm driving and I got my music on and I'm like in my zone, and the guy's like, dude, I've been following you for like 2 miles now. And I'm like, good thing they didn't think I was fleeing, because shit would have had to get crazy, I'd have to pull my Terry. But no, realistically, that's what kicks everything off. And then you see the corruptness come in more because they find the money that he has for his cousin's bail and take it. And they don't, he cooperates with everything. He goes about everything a very responsible way, and it just kind of falls apart when the bad guys don't want to cooperate with him.
Basically, actually, really, this movie could have been over, but Johnson's character is an asshole, and he's a guy who is entitled as fuck, and he doesn't like being
he doesn't like being told what to do.
He doesn't like being told what to do, and he escalates the situation, because there's a point in the movie, obviously, where I know we're talking about acting, so we'll get into it, but there's a point in the movie where Aaron Pierre basically tells him, like, listen, I just need the 10K. He has 36,000 on him because him and his cousin are going to start a new life, but his cousin got locked up for a weed possession, and so it's 10K for the bail. So he basically, after the whole thing goes down where they confiscate the money and everything, he basically, I just need the 10K, at the end of the day, because his cousin, it's revealed that there's a whole thing where he snitched on this
backstory
where he snitched on a gang leader, and they're going to move him to the state prison. And there's people in there that know that gang leader that are homies with him, and they're going to fuck him up once he gets sent to that prison, and his life could be in danger. So he needs to get him out of there quickly. So there's that scene where basically, which is a great scene, and they have a great back and forth, John Johnson and Aaron Pierre. And basically, yeah, he's like, I'll just take the 10K, you keep the rest of the money, the 26K, and that's it. And you think, that was it. That's a good deal. That's actually a great deal. And even Don Johnson says it at one point, but he just is such a fucking stubborn prick.
He basically reneges on the deal,
yeah.
and he lets him know that the reason he says, no one tells me what to do, essentially.
Okay.
He goes, that's essentially the reason that he didn't. And he goes, but I thought, he basically says, it sounded like you were going to keep your hands up. That was the whole point, to make you believe I was, you know?
He's basically a guy who's let power go to his head.
Exactly.
And it ends up causing this whole clusterfuck. So let's get into the filmmaking of this film.
What are we looking at?
I think he's Marine Corps Martial Arts MCMAP. One mind, any weapon.
There's a lot of great stuff in here. I really like the way the director and writer of the film, Jeremy Saulnier, he did, I don't know if you've seen any of his other films. He did the movie The Green Room, Hold the Dark.
Yes, I like The Green Room a lot.
Yeah, Hold the Dark, which is also
That's the only one I've seen.
Okay. He has another Netflix movie called Hold the Dark with Jeffrey Wright in it. And that one's not bad, but I think Rebel Ridge is definitely better than that one.
But he only directed Hold the Dark, though. He didn't write it.
He didn't write
Rebel
it,
Ridge and Green Room, he wrote both of those.
Yeah. So, and I think his writing is great in this movie. He did a great job writing it. Like I said, I feel like the dialogue it had a good rhythm to it. It was also like, it got to the point, but it didn't feel like you're getting told like exposition, like just about the plot or anything like that. It felt like they were real people for the most part. Like you're getting characterization from them. So that was cool. The way the action was filmed was very well done. I love it that it's not like shaky cam or anything like that. Yeah. Very tactical in the way it's being, like how Aaron Pierre's character is, Terry, very kind of precise, clinical, and the movements are slick and just like him, and I thought it was, when the action scenes happened, they were very well executed in my opinion, and really good at building suspense. There's a lot of cool scenes that we'll talk about, but I thought the directing was great. The music was adequate and it fit the movie. It wasn't intrusive or overbearing or anything like that. And the makeup effects were good. There was some good stuff in there too, that like near the end when some people are getting elbowed in the face and the cuts and stuff looked really realistic and really well done.
I definitely thought that he did a great job in the attention to detail with everything. Like there's certain things that come up in the movie that then come into play later in the movie, and just because they explain everything, like I don't think there's anything left open-ended as far as an explanation goes. You're not left thinking, what was that? Or why did that happen? It's all very, it's all explained thoroughly. The action scenes, I like that again, I'm not an expert at this, but they all seem very realistic. It didn't seem like he wasn't taking on 5 guys at once. He wasn't doing any of that. Right, everything is done. There was 2 scenes where I actually was like, I'm not sure about that. One of them being where they set it up because she talks about bringing him coconut water, and they break into a place and she stops a fire with coconut water, which I believe was started with gasoline. And I'm like, I don't know if a little bit of coconut water is going to stop the fire. Like it's in a straight line. So that part I was kind of questioning.
I'm curious about that too. If that's like how I wouldn't be surprised if that's actually like. That's very plausible. But I
have no idea. But off of initial viewing, I was like, oh, that's a little bit weird. And then the other part where
have something special. That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah. And then the other part that I thought was a little bit I thought was a little bit kind of where they dropped the ball a little bit. And again, it's minor stuff, but he's at a showdown in the end and he ends up making a run for it. And there's like, I don't know, like 8-10 cops around, and their reaction time to realize that he's running is pretty long, right? Like for them to like turn around to shoot him. Obviously they can't turn around and kill him because that's the end of the movie. But I just thought the reaction time was very slow.
I think that, I don't know if you're familiar with this term called plot armor. I don't know if you ever heard that, but that's a term where where the characters, they have plot armor. Basically, they can't die because they're integral to the plot, and they're gonna.
Oh no, I'm not saying he should have been killed or anything.
I'm not saying that, but I'm saying like where it feels like they're missing too many shots or stuff like that, etc. Like that, like because they're the main characters.
I understand all that. My only issue with that was that up until that point, everything had been pretty on point, and it just you'll notice that where. I'm sure they could have maybe moved the car a lot closer so it wasn't that big of a distance that he had to run or something so that the cops wouldn't seem like they're just standing there with their dick in their hand.
Yeah, I don't think it's bad because I think the smart thing about that whole set piece at the end is that their vision's obscured with all the smoke and the on all that stuff, and they're actually inhaling. They don't have gas.
No, that's before that. That happens before that.
Which one are you talking?
When he's standing against them, he doesn't have his bag. They took his bag from him.
Oh,
then
when he drags the cop across.
And yes, and it seems like they're not a close. And you see it, and those guys are like, not.
Well, here's the other thing. Here's the other thing that you're failing to mention. Here's the great thing about the cops in this movie too that I like. They're not all necessarily. They're confused at that point in the movie. Not all of them, besides the Emory Cohen character and Don Johnson, who are clearly on the same page. But all the other cops, they are part of the corruption, but they're not fully on board with killing people necessarily. You know what I mean? So I feel like
there doesn't. I don't need an explanation because
the movie. But I'm saying there's a believability in why they maybe look like they're holding their, like they didn't react fast enough to that part.
No, well, so here's why I'm saying. Here's the reason it's even getting brought up. He does such a good job on every other part that there's nothing to question, that the one thing that you could potentially question, or the two things that I brought up, stand out a lot more because the rest of that movie is everything. I don't think there's anything you can question.
I see what you're saying, but at the end of the day, it's not like anything egregious in my case.
No, and it didn't ruin the movie. I'm just bringing it up. That's how good that he set everything up. That where there is like
you're saying, you're spotlighting
a small fumble. Like it stands out because everything is so good. It's like
it's something someone can put to question. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
If LeBron James is playing a game and he makes 20 baskets in a row and then he misses one shot, everyone's gonna remember the one shot he missed because he made every other basket.
No, I get what you're saying. Yeah, it's one of the few things that can be put like to question or people can complain about. I totally get that. But I was in an argument through text with someone who watched it too, and they were like, they liked it, but they were like, oh, I feel like it had too much plot armor for him. Like he was getting, I'm like, I felt like nothing was egregious in the sense, like compared to like a John Wick movie.
Hold on. What plot armor did he have though? Like they set up the perfect character who,
what I'm saying is like,
I'm saying this person needs to explain themselves.
No, I know. I don't know. He was just saying that, and he was just saying
who
that.
Who is this man? Name him so we can shame him.
No, I won't put him on blast like that. He's the homie. But I think part of it is that he was trashing the movie before it came out, like the trailer, and I think he saw the movie. He's like, wow, this is a lot better than I thought it was going to be, and he's being a low key hater. I legitimately hater. He knows he is because when he texted me that he saw, he's like, I know Steven's gonna say I'm a hater because he knows he's being a hater. And he gave it way too low of a rating. It's not a bad rating, but he gave it a low rating. And I was like, bro, you're being a hater.
Look, and let's be realistic. When
I
saw this trailer, I was like, oh, this is Rambo Walking Tall, like mashup, like just not what I expected. Super over delivered. Like, damn, like honestly. There's watch
that
anything
vibe for sure. There's that vibe, but it's not that.
Yeah,
there's
you're expecting it to go there, and it never does, which is great in my opinion. I hate seeing every action movie just so over the top, But like honestly, I'll watch anything that Jeremy Saulnier makes now because.
Oh, definitely. This was a great return. I feel like this was like the other movie that he made for Netflix, Hold the Dark. Not a bad movie at all. It was good. But there was left something to be desired in that movie for me. There was something missing. I need to rewatch it. It's been a while, but this one, like, I don't feel like there's something left to be desired. I feel like I got a full meal out of it. You know what I mean? And I feel like it delivered and then some, because like I said, I was expecting one type of movie and I got way more. I got seconds and thirds, and I was like, oh, nice. This is what I like. This is what I like. The movie's not just some straight up mindless action movie, So,
Dude, so the filmmaking was good. So let's move on to the scenes that we liked in this movie because there was quite a bit of things that I personally liked in this movie.
You need to be very, very careful. Let's not do that.
What I think is the best scene in this movie is when he comes back to confront Don Johnson after he's been screwed over by Don Johnson. And essentially, they're in the police station. One of the cops that stole the money, Don Johnson, and then the female officer Jessica, and they're looking him up and they're looking at what he did in the Marines and they're kind of saying, oh, he's got this badge. And Don Johnson's like, everyone gets that. And they say that he was part of MCMAP or McMap, and they're trying to look up what that is, but they're having an internet issue. And then they say, oh, he has 0 deployments as he's walking towards the police station. And Don Johnson's like holding his breath. And he's like, ooh, thank God for that, because he almost, you know, his heart almost jumped out of his chest or something, because, you know, he was worried that if he had deployments, he was very combat trained, right? So Don Johnson goes out to confront them thinking he's like untouchable, you know, very
he goes
cocky,
in there
very
with
arrogant.
confidence for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other 2 policemen stay in the building.
Hold on. Can I say something? They also do a great job of building up the suspense of his background, because the Wi-Fi is acting up. So
yeah.
Officer Jessica has to unplug it. So it delays the information to Don Johnson, which is great.
And so when he gets out there, he talks about PACE, which is, I guess, a system that they use for a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
and he basically gives him the description. Yeah, gives him the acronym description, and then tells him that, you know, they're beyond, they're at the last one. And Don Johnson tries to kind of get a little, you know, aggressive with him. And he obviously stops him. But as that happens, they are able to pull the internet back up, and they pull up Wikipedia, and Wikipedia tells them that McMAP stands for Marine Corps Martial Arts Program. And then she's like, he's on the Wikipedia page. Like, his picture is actually on the Wikipedia page. So when he comes out, he's like, sir, step back, step away from him. You know, wants him because he realizes that
Emory Cohen's like, oh shit, hey, back up. Yeah.
No, that's and then that whole scene, he subdues both of them.
In a very cool way.
It's not over the top. There isn't. It's just like, I would imagine if there was someone who was very, very trained and were to take on 2 individuals, that's how it would happen. In my mind, that's how it would happen. It was such a good job. And that, I think, set the tone for the rest of the movie, because like, they're not going to be, I knew at that point they weren't going to be bringing in a bunch of BS. And the one thing in that scene, what I liked is he has Don Johnson as a hostage, essentially, right? He gets him after he's taken their weapons. And there's some other guys that are working on the other officers. I don't know if they're officers either, but
I don't think so. They're like doing construction work on the side of
I don't know, but those guys draw their guns. Yeah. And he goes, tell him to holster it. And then he says, especially that guy, he's got a good stance, and he looks like he knows what he's doing. And I just thought that little attention to detail is just so good. And there was so many of those little attention to details throughout the movie. And
I agree. And I agree, like, that's definitely one of my top 2, top 3 favorite scenes. Maybe my favorite scene in the movie. That is a truly great scene. That whole hit of him telling him what the acronym of PACE means. You know, he's like, P is primary, A is alternate, C is contingency. And he doesn't say you don't find out what E is, but I'm assuming execution is what E. I'm not sure. He doesn't reveal what E is. What do you think it is?
I don't know, man. Now
they never reveal it, because when you come back inside and then when you come back out, he's already told him, you know? So I'm assuming it's execution or extermination. I'm not sure. So I was kind of curious what that was. What was the actual meaning of the letter E in that thing? But I just love the whole conversation. It was like, yeah, I'm running out of letters, you know? It's just a great, and their acting is just on point in that
primary,
scene.
Alternate, contingency, and emergency.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Emergency, because everything's been put into emergency mode now, essentially.
Basically, you're putting him in a corner, and he's gonna have to do what he has to do. And another thing that I was gonna say, that what I like about that scene, the way the action happens and how he subdued, it also sets his character up beautifully on who he is. He's trying to do this in the most like legal way he can do it without like crossing the line. He's trying not to cross the line. He's like, listen, I'm only doing this because you guys are about to try to kill me, but I don't want to kill you. That's not what I want. I want justice. I want what's fair. That's all he wants. And I like that. And it sets his character up as a unique, like, leading man and a unique character for this type of movie, you know? Yeah. But yeah, I thought it was great.
So to me, another scene that really stood out is, well, there's 2 scenes, essentially. One that takes place before what we just explained. Essentially, he goes and catches up to his cousin as he's being transferred on the bus.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just a cool scene where, like, they kind of show what he's made of, where he pedals his bike to catch up with the bus and basically fist pound his cousin, right?
Yeah.
And it just kind of shows, it's a good way of setting up like, how he is, like his demeanor and all that stuff. But the one thing that I liked about this movie is that when they're having confrontational scenes, a lot of them are very subdued and calm. So essentially what happens is once they realize what he is, right, then his cousin gets killed in prison. Right? His cousin gets killed and they get notified about that.
Yeah. He ends up getting attacked by the people he was worried were going to attack him.
And they basically pick him up and they tell him that his cousin's going to be bringing. I was
going to talk about.
And Don Johnson basically says, listen, you need to uncuff him. You shouldn't be cuffed for this. And he basically says, your cousin was attacked. I don't know how he's doing. I don't know anything. But look, here's the deal. You're going to, because he went into the station and took the money, basically held him, took the money. But I think Don Johnson's realized kind of he's not going to be someone
he's not going to be happy.
Taken advantage of. Yeah. So Don Johnson says, so we're going to let him out. You got your bail money and you were looking to buy this truck. The truck's already paid for and here's the cash. Like, that's left. Just walk away and all this stuff. And then when they bring the cousin in, he finds out he's dead. But see, this is where I thought the movie's so genius, because in any other movie, this is where he's like, I'm going to be out for revenge, But in his mind, he's like, it happened. He doesn't try to. He basically is willing to walk away, like, as it happened. Like, what can I do I can't do anything about this, because at that point they've already screwed him over, because he had to he got his money because he sold his share in a Chinese restaurant. Yeah. And at one point he calls them and the guy who owns the restaurant says that he'll send him more money if he needs it. And he goes, okay, just be ready just in case. But then the cops go, Don Johnson calls the police to mess with him and basically take his money because they think it's related to drugs because of the weed possession his cousin had, right? And what I liked about that very much is that it makes you question at the beginning, because the guy, when they calls him, they sound very mafioso-like. So it almost makes you question a little bit, like, are they into something? But it's not. But I like, again, it keeps the suspense up a little bit. But again, the fact that he is willing to walk away and leave town, like, is different, because in most movies, that's when the violence starts. That's when everything starts. He actually doesn't come back until they mess with the girl Summer, who has been helping him. Yeah. And because she tries to, she's trying to show him all the corruption that's going on.
She digs into it and she starts, First one, she digs in too deep. Someone notices that she's been digging in too deep, and she's more of a problem because she can expose them, So,
and what I like is that there's that scene where he's like, I get it, but I'm not here trying to be a hero, Yeah. He's like, I was here to save my cousin, and we all saw how that went. So I like the fact that it's not just some guy who's like all of a sudden decides to be the good Samaritan. Everything he does is with a purpose. Yeah. It's not, there is no thing that he does that doesn't have a purpose.
Also, you just get to see great acting of Aaron Pierre, That's always hard scenes to do. Like, how are you going to react when you get the terrible news, And that's like the most terrible news he can get for this character in this movie is his cousin dying. He does it great. You see the emotions, but, he does it in a way that's not corny or cheesy. He just does it. The guy is just acting his ass off in this movie without overdoing it. And he does a great job. And another thing, I just really like the bad guys in this movie, because they're not like some, in other movies, they're just like, it's more like they're going to kill you and shoot you out in the back. And that they're trying to preserve whatever humanity. They're corrupt, but they're not, they're still human beings. They're not
they're trying to preserve their enterprise still,
They're trying to preserve their living, their well-being, because there's been issues. Basically, there's been issues in the past with the police station. They're low funded. They're basically doing this corruption because they had an incident, a civil lawsuit that didn't go their way. They lost their insurance. They're not insurable anymore. Basically, they got stuff taken away from them, and they were going to get the whole thing taken away from the police station and everything. But they decided to start doing corrupt things so they can stay afloat and keep their position of power in their jobs. So it's not like the motives are understandable, makes sense, and like I said, they're not like some basic movie bad guys where they're just like blood hungry or anything like that. No. They could have killed him. They could have tried to kill him, but they're not. They're trying to be reasonable people within the parameters of their what, of their
What
whatever
they are,
moral
what
compass.
the bad guys, yeah.
He's not like a straight up guy like, I'm just gonna kill you. He's power hungry, but he's not trying to be like some gangster. He's just trying to keep his job and his power, which leads to this whole clusterfuck. But that's what I like. They're not like these movie bad guys. They're human beings still. Even the most like obvious like one note bad guy, which is Emory Cohen's character, Officer Stephen Land. But even then, he's not like doing things out of like doing stuff behind Don Johnson's back. He's still listening and trying to make it the best way to cover up this whole situation without it getting too crazy. And there's many scenes that we can talk about that are really good. Some are short, very like quick scenes and little moments within the scenes and stuff like that. But another great scene is when Emory Cohen, this is like near the beginning of the third act. He has to come back into town. They basically tell him, listen, you got to leave town. Don't come back again or not. You're not going to have any protection. We're going to have to take you out, basically. Don't come back. Don't show your face again. He has to come back to help Summer. Summer, that's her name. AnnaSophia Robb, help her character. So when he's trying to leave, Emory Cohen sees him and pulls him over, and there's other cops like blocking both ways for him to drive, So he tries to basically set him up like by dropping a gun in there and also shooting him, setting him up. That scene, the way it plays out, the little details, also his character Emory Cohen fucks up. He shouldn't have said certain things to give him the hints, to give him the red flag.
That's what I'm saying. They're the little hints that then come to play later in the movie.
Exactly, about the lights, the cop lights. Like I noticed that you didn't flash me. You just you waved me down, but without turning on your lights, like stuff like that.
He tells them that every time they run the lights, the dash cam starts. The dash cam starts and all that stuff.
So obviously that like gives him that gives like, oh, this guy's gonna try to kill me or do something.
And he even says to him, he goes, "You're really smart."
Mm-hmm.
He goes, "You're a smart guy." To the bat, Emory Cohen says that to him, and it's like at that point you realize like they know that they're not dealing with just an average Joe either. So there's like a mutual. I mean, I don't know. He doesn't. I don't think. There is a mutual respect because he's willing to just leave and let it be.
Yeah,
right?
And there's a mutual respect for his abilities, clearly, because he already got his ass kicked by him. But also, what's great about that scene is that Emory Cohen's character, it's nerve-wracking what he has to do. He has to set up this guy, throw the gun and shoot him, like set him up. So I think he's not like, that's not something he does necessarily every day. And he's dealing with a guy who's very skilled and could potentially catch on to him. So I feel like he plays it good, like of showing that he's nervous, but like trying to play it cool.
Yeah,
it's subtle, but he does it well. He's not like this is what I do every weekend or every month or something. I'm not an old hand at this, but that's a great scene. Yeah.
And the last fight scene in that movie
is
like
great,
the last showdown scene is great because, like you said, everything's done tactically. It's not just guns a-blazing, all that bullshit. Like, it's like if someone's gonna do that, I would assume that's exactly how they would do it to get out of that situation. He loaded up on ammunition and like smoke bombs and other stuff, and he's using that to effectively maneuver away and basically beat 10 people.
Yeah, he's doing it so he can get close to them, to obscure their vision, to obscure their senses, so he can do his hand-to-hand combat without murdering them. He breaks this one fool's arm pretty bad too.
Yeah, here's what's crazy in that entire movie, and I might be wrong, but as I remember correctly, only one person died, and that was his cousin.
Yeah, that's true. Only that is said. Only one person dies, and that's his cousin, and it's off screen too.
And it's off screen. Like that, because it's what, PG-13, right?
No, it's rated R. No, he cuts it out of the movie. Yeah, there's a lot of F-bombs.
Oh shoot! For some reason, I thought it was PG-13.
No, it's rated
because
R.
I was like, damn, they did a good job not killing anybody on screen.
And there is some graphic, when he elbows Emory Cohen's face, and there's like nasty blood gash. He snaps that officer's arm, like he literally snaps it. That's pretty brutal. And the language, there's a lot of F-bombs throughout, All
right, so we both like this movie. Let's go straight into the rating for this.
So I was thinking, what if we just walk away?
Well, now you're starting to talk.
What if she's like, nah.
What are you rating this movie on a scale of 1 to 10?
Like I said, I was able to catch it. I've watched it 2.5 times. So I would have to say my rating standing is an 8.8. I really liked it a lot. Like I said, it took me by surprise. I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it was. I thought it was going to be good, but I didn't think it was going to be like, oh, actually, this is like a great movie. I think this is legit a really good movie. I could see people revisiting this movie just for the action scene moments, even though it's not like overall like action every scene or anything like that. But even then, it's got a good little investigation procedural in there with the characters. Yeah, like I said, it had checked off a lot of. I think the biggest gripe for me in the movie is the goddamn when he gets stripped up by the bike, because you could tell there was CGI integration into that, him falling off the bike. That's like my nitpick
really?
of the movie.
I hadn't even noticed that.
To me, it looks a little too like there's like some type of computer generated integration to that fall. And it doesn't look horrible, but it's like I can notice it. That's my biggest gripe with the movie, honestly, is that opening, and it's right in the beginning of the movie. So, like I said,
at the end of it, you forgot about it.
No, at the end of the day, I wasn't even thinking about it,
Yeah.
and most people aren't even going to give a shit. So, but really, I didn't really have any real issues with it. What I always prefer a little bit more, graphic blood, of course, But at the end of the day, I got enough, and it worked beautifully. I thought. I'm really excited to see Jeremy Saulnier's next film.
I think they put the blood in exactly like where it was supposed to be.
No, that's what I'm saying. I said there was enough, but I'm saying me personally, I just prefer always.
You just want to see motherfucking blood exploding in the air, don't you?
No, not even like that. But I always prefer a little.
Desperado
not
style.
even like that. Not even. I just always prefer a little extra. But I'm splitting hairs here. It was enough. It's not a real issue. So 8.8 for me. What do you give it?
I honestly think this is like a 9.1, 9.2 for me. I think if you look at, let's go with the 9.2. I think when you look at everything they did, I was just not what I was expecting. So I was pleasantly surprised. And really, I mentioned the two things that I would have nitpicked at, and they're not even a big deal. I thought it was as solid of a story as you can write and as a film as you can put together, especially coming from what the genre like this is normally like. It's just so over the top, so, like ridiculous that I thought it was refreshing to see something like this. I think it's...
I was gonna say, I feel like I feel like those movies tend to sometimes end up turning silly because they get like so ridiculous.
Oh, 100%. I
feel like this movie never went into that area. Thankfully, I think it stayed. Maybe it like got close to, and then but it always pulled itself back from ever crossing that line of it becoming silly or goofy or anything like that. And I really appreciated that. And I really like that.
I want to, dude, honestly, like when it comes to movies about getting even, essentially, right?
Yeah.
Or
it was satisfying, and nobody died really.
And move over Rambo, dude. Like this man here is the guy. Well,
that's what impressed me about the movie, because I'm someone who you got to handle this subject well, where if you're going to have all the characters, even the bad guys, not die, you know what I mean? Like none of the bad guys die, and obviously none of the main characters die besides the cousin's not really a main character, but you know what I'm saying? Like none of these guys die, and I feel like in all these movies you expect at least the bad guy to die or something. But nobody died, and it felt satisfying to me. That was the great trick of the movie. I got like the brutality and stuff like that, and all the like grittiness of the movie. But everybody lived, and that's unusual for movies like this. I feel like at least there's even the like side officer characters lived. You know what I mean? And they're disposable in these movies. So I thought it was cool.
I felt most of the characters that came into the movie had some. Meaning to it, aside from the extra police, essentially, but everyone was on point. But there you guys have it. Rebel Ridge, a must-see, an 8.8 from Steven, a 9.2 from me. Best, again, I'll say it again, best Netflix movie that's come out in a while. Definitely worth a watch. If you don't like it, I'd love to hear why you didn't like it. I'd love to hear. I feel like you'd be drinking some haterade at that point, because there is not much you can nitpick at on this movie. It is.
I feel like
I'm surprised this didn't go to theaters, man.
Honestly, and I was thinking that too. We didn't say that, but I think there was a missed opportunity. I think this could have done well in theaters.
100%.
It's kind of a shame. I think Netflix didn't have the belief in it. I mean, look, we didn't go into this as a whole nother thing, but there was a bunch of production issues apparently with this movie, which is also not a great sign in movies that have all these issues with making, behind the scenes, usually don't end up cut well together or turned out well. And this movie, they ended up working. I don't know what
knocked
exactly.
It out of the park.
Yeah, he was able to maintain the movie and keep it focused, and it worked out. So, I agree. The missed opportunity for Netflix to release it in theaters, because I think it would have been great to see it in the theaters. I think it could have had a good, decent success in my opinion. But yeah.
100%. So there you guys have it. We'd appreciate if you guys smash a like on the video, if you guys subscribe to the channel. And again, let us know in the comments what you guys thought about the movie. Let us know if you think it kind of set a new standard for this type of film, this type of action revenge film that you normally see, with like the Rambos, the Walking Talls. Like I thought it is head and shoulders above the rest of them. 100%. So once again, I'm Nathan. This is Steven. We're 24 Chambers of Film, and thanks for tuning in.